Hey gearheads, welcome back to A Gearhead for Life. Today's update, February 11th, 2015. It's been a long time since I've got an update to y'all, especially on the Camaro. I was looking back at my videos to see when the last time I told y'all anything on the Camaro, and it was about a year ago. Actually, a year ago, exactly, February is when we talked about the death of the squirter. So today I'm going to get you the update on the Camaro and the status of what we're doing with it. We're finally messing with it, and an update on the truck, a couple updates on the truck, but I have a stack of things. Man, I had so many things to update on y'all on, I had to make a list. So to try to make sure that I told y'all everything, I post all of these things up on my Facebook blog page, A Gearhead Number 4 Life, just like it is right here on my YouTube channel, but on Facebook. We have two pages there. The one that's spelled just like it is on my YouTube is my blog page. Then there's one that's A, Gear, Head, the word for, and Life, all separate words with a space in between. That is our group page. That's where everybody gets on there and posts and share and helps each other out. You know, I get a lot of questions, technical questions about other people's swaps and stuff, and I get overwhelmed. You know, usually I can't respond to them all. Well, the good thing about that group page is that you go there, you post your questions, you'll have other people who have experience, the experience I have or a different experience, who can get on there and answer your questions. Not only that, you'll be able to share your experiences in other situations because you'll have other people asking questions that you may have experience in. It's not just LS, it's mostly LS stuff on there and swap stuff, but some people will talk about small blocks and LT1s on there as well. It's an open group, it's open to anything gearhead related, you know. We don't care if it's building a new tool to accomplish something on a Ford motor. It doesn't matter. Even if it is Ford, there's not very many Ford guys on there, or Dodge. There's a couple Dodge guys, but the point of the page is just to have a group of respectful gearheads on there helping each other out. The first thing I want to bring up and talk about today is that last night we crossed the 10,000 subscriber mark on A Gearhead for Life. That's awesome. That's great stuff, and we're coming up on 2 million views also. I want to thank you all for your support. I appreciate it, and I love listening to y'all's feedbacks in the comments below, and also everybody on Facebook, your comments there. Not only do I appreciate your feedback and you give me ideas, sometimes you make me think of something that I haven't thought of and help me to remember things to make sure I do them before I finish the job. So I thank you all for your support and for your feedback. In celebration of A Gearhead for Life on YouTube, crossing the 10,000 subscriber mark, I've got a couple small gifts I'd like to give out to y'all. Check them out. We've got Mechanics Camouflage gloves, thanks to Greg Aiken for donating those to the cause. We've got a 1/4 inch Craftsman ratchet set, handy to keep in the car, whatever. A set of eBay V-bands, 2 1/4 paired together, 2 1/4 inch. A new Craftsman 3/8 drill with charger, no battery, and a Gearhead for Life shirt. Alright, to the first person to leave a comment below will get the shirt automatically. Then you pick one of the 4 items here you would like. The second person to leave a comment will pick from one of the 3 that are left over. Third person will pick from one of the 2 left over, and the 4th person will get the last one. Alright, thank you all for your support. I want y'all to know this year's Hot Rod Power Tour, it's going right by where I live here, so there's no reason why I should miss this long haul. So this year I will be doing the long haul on the Hot Rod Power Tour. And if you guys are going to be on that tour, I will see you there. I will be in my blue Chevy truck. Alright, Camaro won't be ready yet. Hopefully we'll get the Camaro ready for LS Fest though this year. Also, everyone who saw the Roadkill video post where they talked about having a position open, and I made a comment on there, and a lot of you guys got on there and put up awesome replies below that video, and I didn't expect some of those replies that y'all put there. You know, that was motivating. I appreciate your feedback and the nice things that you said about me there, and I appreciate everyone who hit that thumbs up and that like button to support my A Gearhead for Life and to get us up noticed by Motor Trend, hopefully. At least maybe so I can get in there and get a handshake, huh? Thank you guys. Next thing is, any of y'all who caught the last video I uploaded, well, I didn't necessarily have to upload it because it was a live video. There was no warning really on it. There was a couple hours warning on my Facebook blog page. I posted up, said I'm going to try it out and see what happens, see how it works. It was an interesting learning experience, and probably the biggest part that I learned is, though, that I need to give all of you guys a heads up. So the next time I do a live event like that, I'll post up a video like this one, letting you know a date and time of when, and also if it's Central Time, that's where I live, Central Time, of when I'll be doing a live event like that. I learned a lot of, I had to work out some bugs, not only with my internet providers. I had to switch providers because that one, their internet was too weak. And I actually wound up streaming that video off of my phone. That's how bad it was, because my phone had better service than my home internet provider. But also how to connect and how to keep it all flowing. Also how to message. It looked like everyone who wanted to message on that live video, they had to message through Google Talk, or I'm not really sure how. Hopefully some of the guys who were able to message on that last video will message below this one and post up how you're able to pull off to communicate with me, because a lot of people had issues where they weren't able to type a response. It wasn't in the regular comments box below the video. They had a little chat box going next to the right of the live video where they were able to put up their questions and comments. I was able to read them and then talk about them to the camera. So it was pretty cool. I don't want anybody being left out. If you want to be able to talk back, post up comments that I could answer on the next live video. So we need to figure that out. I think you have to have a Google Plus account, and that's how they were able to. But let's see what you guys say below, how you were able to comment. Thanks. On my Facebook blog page, I keep lots of helpful information, tips, pictures of everything that I do. I'm talking about, I take a lot of pictures, and everything that I do, I take pictures of and post it up on there, and they're saved into the photo albums in the photo section. My truck has its own photo album. The Camaro has its own photo album. The Camaro Turbo piping build part has its own album. So there's a lot of helpful information. There's saved notes there on tricks, how to do some certain things, or a lot of people will ask, just the general swap parts list. I keep a list there for that. So if you want to check out any of this stuff, get over there onto my Facebook blog page, A Gearhead for Life, and check out the information there. I want to show you all the new Dickies Mechanics Gearhead for Life shirt that I made. I don't expect to sell many of these. I will have them available to be bought. They'll be made as you order them. But I don't expect to sell too many of these because they're expensive. They cost around 40 bucks shipped. But I made these mainly just for my appearance and professional appearance, and to look more presentable at a car show or something like that. So if you see me out at LS Fest or Power Tour somewhere, more than likely I'll be wearing one of these shirts. It just says my name mark on the right chest. Left it says Gearhead, and the back is the regular emblem you see on the t-shirt. But these shirts are Dickies. They're polyester, or majority polyester, about 65% polyester. They're durable. I used to wear these when I worked in a shop, and loved how well they held up. When you're covered in sweat out from underneath the car, in a t-shirt you get up and it kind of hangs off of your chest. The neck hole stretches out and you look kind of sloppy. It's alright, but just not as presentable as this is. This stays, it keeps its shape, and looks good. Before I get into the updates of the Camaro and then the truck, I want to show y'all a couple tools that I made. We made a transmission holder, holds up transmission that slides into the engine stand. So I'm able to move that transmission around. Also, it'll hold the transmission steady to work on it. I don't know if you ever try to work on the valve body of a transmission or anything on a flat bench. Thing rolls around, it's hard to reach to stuff, it's just not cool. So I made a transmission holder that slides into the engine stand. It holds it great, in a great position to work on it. Plus it allows you to roll it into the corner or something when you're not messing with it. I also made a tool to hold the crank steel. You ever try taking that front crank bolt out, to get the harmonic balancer off, to get the front cover out like for a cam swap? Well, that bolt is torqued down to 240 foot-pounds, and it has like a red Loctite underneath the head of it against the crank. So it's a pain in the butt to get off, and you got to hold the crank steel to get it off. Well, you can put a pry bar in there or something to try to hold it still. What I did was, it wasn't my idea. I seen the tool somewhere probably, and I just made my own. What you do is you take a piece of an old flex plate, about 4 teeth of it, you weld up a little bracket that pushes into the flex plate. It pretty much bolts up to where the starter goes. You replace the starter with this little bracket. It locks down on the flex plate so the crank can't turn, and you can bust that crank bolt loose. Let me show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Flat bar, bolted down to where the starter goes, and then this piece comes up, grabs onto the flex plate right here. I used of course used an engine to mock it up. One reason why I'm showing you this is, one, so you can make your own if you wanted to. What I did is I had one flex plate from the squirter, that's why it's got blue paint on it, and I had chopped it up into a whole bunch of pieces. So if you need one of these pieces, I'll put the info below. I'm not going to charge you for the piece, just for the shipping. Just send me $2 on PayPal, and make sure you put your address in the notes of that PayPal transaction, and I'll get it shipped out to you. I'll leave that down in the video description below. Next to show y'all is that transmission holder I was telling you about. That's what it looks like. It's slid into an engine stand. I've got pictures of how I did this and all, but I'll probably save that for another video so it doesn't get lost into the middle of this big update video. But basically that's what it looks like. I used some old head bolts. These will go into the side of the transmission. Has pins, little dimples to where you're supposed to put a mount to hold the tranny up. So that's what these head bolts are. I just rounded them off to fit in there perfectly. This one has got a nut welded in, so you rotate it, it pinches down in the transmission and holds it up. It held up the 4L80E on here with fluid in it and a torque converter, so it's pretty damn strong. But just an idea for y'all if you plan on messing with transmissions. Time for the update for the Camaro. We'll start with the 6.0 LQ4 motor that's going into the Camaro. The heads are finally ported. I know we've been waiting a long time to get those done. I finally finished porting the heads. I had the valve job done, picked them up. They are now bolted onto the engine. I used an MLS head gasket. I would have used eBay head studs, but coincidentally my father-in-law Billy hooked me up. He had a set of ARP used head studs that he didn't need. He hooked me up with them. I appreciate that. I got brand new dual valve springs on there. The valve spring retainers now, y'all see those little shiny things? Those were on the squirter. I assumed those things would only be like 50 bucks. You know, I was gonna leave those on the squirter and then put an extra set on here. But no, I went to price those little shiny things right here, valve spring retainer, to get an extra set to put on this motor, and those things were like 250 bucks or something. I guess they're titanium, some trash. I was not expecting that. So guess what? I crawled under the hood of the Camaro and pulled those off the squirter. They're now on here. These are the video y'all saw with the trunnion upgrade being installed. That was these rockers. They're finally being installed. They're on the motor. What I did not do and I forgot to do is I need to put a thread sealer. My buddy Greg Aiken hooked me up with some pipe thread sealant, and it'll work in this application. And I need to go on each intake port. If y'all remember, when I port them, it cuts a hole into the intake port where the rocker stud lump is. So for that bolt where the hole goes through, you need to put some thread sealant on it so it doesn't suck oil or vacuum leak into the intake port. So I gotta go back and do that still. What's next? I think I told y'all MLS factory style head gasket is what I used. I wound up using, I measured for the correct push rod length. We got 7.4 hardened push rods in there. Also what I did is I drilled and tapped the block the other day for, can y'all see that behind the oil pump there? Drilled and tapped it for an LS2 timing chain dampener, whatever. That's not nothing necessary. I just thought I'd go ahead and slap it in there while I had the engine sitting out here for what, 2 years now or 3 years, however long I've had this engine. Also, if you decide you want to put one of those on your block, because you have to drill and tap for each one of those, I'd recommend doing that while it's completely disassembled. It put out a lot of nasty, what do you call it, shavings from drilling it that I had to make sure I cleaned out from the other side of this wall here on the crank. So I would not recommend doing that while the engine's assembled at all. Oil pump, that's a milling oil pump that I did the port. I ported it and did a little bit bigger spring in it. Should have a little bit more pressure than factory. I think that's all the updates on the 6.0. It's basically just waiting for the pan and everything to come off the squirter. The squirter is still in the Camaro, and I'll show you why it's still in the Camaro here in a second. These are the 80-pound injectors. There's other 6 of them are inside there. So I wound up getting the injectors for the turbo build. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to have those right away, and we're going to have to run it off the 42-pound injectors, which would definitely hold me back and lack in fuel for as much power as that turbo is going to need. but I wound up coming across some money. I did some side jobs and picked these up off eBay for $310 shipped. So we got the injectors covered. Now for the Camaro itself, it's looking pretty rough. The paint job that was on here is flaking off. When I put LS Fest on the side, some of the paint took some of the, the tape took some of the paint off, but you could tell it was already having problems before that, so it wasn't the tape that caused it. The hood's looking rough. I'm gonna have to slap some type of color on here before LS Fest. We'll see what I do there. I need tires. They're cracking and smoked up anyways. It is looking rough, but we'll get there. You know, it's been sitting here in my driveway for a year now since the squirter died. So I got in here and I got ready. I started pulling parts off the squirter. I was getting ready to yank the squirter out of here, and then I realized that I could leave the squirter in here. It'd be perfect for mocking up the turbo piping that we're going to put on the 6.0. So that's what I did. We stopped and we turned the manifolds around and started the piping for the turbo. That's what you see here. Those are truck manifolds. And just the other day I got the merge together to where that side's now coming into the passenger side. I've cut the nubs off the top of it where the heat shield used to mount. Down at the bottom there is a pipe welded to the bottom. It goes over here and curves underneath the heater hoses. It will clear the heater hoses. I got a board in here right now. I'm trying to actually mount the T4 flange and pipe it into my merge. You can tell that's the merge there. So that's why that's being held there with boards and trying to get it in place. That's the piping. Yeah, it may not be the prettiest, but it's there and it'll work. Comes out down here where the alternator used to be for the LS1 F-body brackets. And I've relocated the alternator up here. You can buy a bracket that will do this, but I wanted the challenge of trying to see if I can make one. So I've made one. We'll see how it holds up once we actually get it running. I've got pictures of how I made this. That coating on the black coating you see there is just barbecue pit paint, Rust-Oleum. It's like $4.20 a can or something like that. I'll paint the manifolds with it also. Cut all the nubs off here too, try to smooth it out some. Probably make it easier to heat wrap also without those nubs on the top from the heat shield. V-bands. I wound up going with the V-bands from Squeeze Performance. They have interlocking in the center and have a ridge on the outside to help line up the pipe into. I need to do a big shout out to Sloppy Mechanics, Matt and Denma from Sloppy Mechanics. This is my first turbo build. You know, y'all know I do swaps and I do budget swaps, but this is my first turbo build, and I get a lot of my information and suggestions on way to go from Sloppy Mechanics on YouTube and also their Facebook page. They've got a lot of great information, man. They do the best budget turbo builds out there, and they have great results, making great times, great power, and they show you the cheapest way to make it happen. And that's where I got the injectors suggested from them. They run them with plenty of success. That's where I learned that you can weld the truck manifolds. They're a cast steel, not a cast iron, and they take a weld. Learned that from them. All my turbo information I'm learning from those guys. So if you're interested in doing a budget turbo build, check them out. They're Sloppy Mechanics on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description below here. Now, all these curves that I made down there, I'll have to show you pictures. I got still pictures of when I was making this piping. I'll show you those here. Those were all made out of, I just got some mandrel U-bends like this and just cut them to where I needed them, twisted them, welded them, cut them, and got them to fit. I think I probably used, in that whole setup over there, I only used, I think, 2 or 3 mandrel bends. It didn't take very much. The turbo we're running on the Camaro is the Turbonetics T76. Give y'all an idea of how the truck manifolds look. You take the bolts out, take this heat shield off. Those are the nubs I was talking about that I cut off the manifold. Not only does it look better, it'll probably make it easier to wrap. Cut off this flange here. It's made for the EGR, welded it shut. And then about here is where you would put your V-band, if it'll fit there, or put some pipe and extend it out and put your V-band somewhere else. Over here, this one's a little bit more difficult because of how it starts curving down back here. So you cut it around here somewhere, however you need. I cut it all the way up to here and then down here and put a piece of pipe that went straight out. Truck manifolds though, they don't look like they flow too bad. Look at the shape of them. I give a big thank you to Mike Holloway for hooking me up with the T4 turbo flange, 1/2 inch thick. He got that to me, and then last night I went on to learning how to fit a circle into a rectangle. That was an interesting lesson. This is a 3-inch pipe. That's a T4 flange for the turbo. My first attempt looked something like this. It was going to work. It just wouldn't have been near as pretty. Didn't quite finish that. I also looked at a 2.5 inch pipe to see how it would fit. You squeeze it in a vise that way and see how it would fit. Actually kind of show you how it would fit. It fits in there, but leaves a gap around the edges. So what I did was I took it and pinched it in a vise the long ways. I pinched it in a vise and then set it up in that same pinch of the vise and hammered down from the top. It flattened that out and squared it off. Flip it over, left it in the vise on the sides here, and then hammered out the top. I kept doing that and rotating and flipping it and then seeing how it fit over and over until it fit right. Because you want a smooth transition right here across that, and that's how I did it. It looks easy, but I'm telling you, it's not as easy as it looked. Need to give a huge thank you to Sergio also. Sergio hooked me up with some cold side piping here. appreciate that, man. It really helps out. Every little bit of y'all's help really helps. All right, now time for updates on the 87 Chevy truck. First, look right here. You know, that hurt a lot of people's hearts when they saw that. I'll show you a video of what happened right here. Came out from work right now, and this is what I saw. As soon as I start driving, it's all going to fly off. Here we go. That sucks. No big deal, because y'all may not know, but this cow hood has never really clicked with me. It just doesn't feel like it matches the body lines with this dip in the middle. So, and I've always loved the way a factory hood looks, so I have a factory hood to go on here. It just needs to be painted to match, and hopefully we'll get that together soon, because we got Power Tour coming up. I need to have the hood painted and on here, and AC on here. Got my daughter going with me. I want her to be comfortable in some AC. Next thing I want to show y'all that I'm pretty excited about is the bumper. Check it out. That's the 90s style bumper. To make this fit, we had to adjust the mounts. I got the 90s mounts, and this is what they look like. All right, this bumper here is pretty rough shaped bumper. It came out of a junkyard. It's scraped up here, plastic's loose, but mainly I got it so that I could fab up the mounts to make it fit. So later on, when I come across a nicer bumper in better shape, then I'll swap it out. But we got it nice and close over here, and on this side I guess it scooted out when I tightened it down, so I need to scoot it in. But the bumper looks pretty cool to me. I like it. All right, let's go check out the inside. There's a couple things I want to tell you about. One was, I don't think I told y'all about the headliner. I put a headliner in, little skulls and American flags and some wings and shit. But that's it. That's the headliner. It's in there. I had an issue with the fuel. Fuel was cutting off kind of and giving me random issues, and I smelled like a burning smell. Turned out it was my fuel tank selector switch. Now if you can see in there, I pretty much bypassed the fuel tank selector switch because it was melting. I bypassed it with those butt connectors you see in there. That cured that issue. Another thing I want to tell you is I've got the coolant gauge working in this truck now. I want to tell you how I did it. I did it by changing out my coolant sender to, this is a sender off of a 98 Camaro, I believe. It's a 3-wire sender. See how it's round instead of that weird oval shape? The sender you can get a lot cheaper. I got it at rockauto.com. It's about 20 bucks or so. But this 3-wire sender allows you to use the 2 regular wires to your computer like normal, and then that 3rd wire you run up to your gauge. So it allows your gauge to work and your computer keeps functioning as normal. That way you don't have to run any type of different other sender in the other side or on the other head or any other weird place. I've been using this truck as a daily driver. You know, some people want to know updates about how the shaved intake is working. I've been daily driving it, and I don't drive it easy. I like to beat on it. whenever I can. And it's holding up, it's still running fine. I see a couple of lines now from where I had filled some in. It's kind of weird, you know, I checked it for vacuum leaks, there's no vacuum leaks. It's just kind of weird how the lines showed through. I had a guy post a comment below and said he's running, he did an intake like this, but he, instead of using body filler across the top, he used something called lab metal. And that looks like the stuff I want to play with next time. I'm not going to use a body filler either. I'm going to get the lab metal and fill it across the top. He says it's strong stuff, it can be sanded. Also, what's so important about this is he said he shaved his intake like this, coated the top with lab metal, and he's running on 10 pounds of boost so far and is doing fine. This summer he hopes to test it out more and see how much it can hold up to. So that's good information, good to know. Any of you who are curious about how the intake was holding up, you know I've been daily driving it ever since before that video, and it's been doing fine. This big ugly hose here I need to work on, but I want to put a PCV oil valley in for the, you know, to suck up less oil instead of from the valve cover where they tend to eat a bunch of oil. That's supposed to help with that. I just haven't done anything with the hose yet. I had an oil burning issue on number 2, and that's one reason why we're doing that. Well, not because of number 2, but just to reduce the oil burning issue. We're trying to find out how, for somehow I'm getting oil on top of the intake valve on number 2. On top of the, so I took off the intake one time and saw a puddle of oil sitting on top of my intake valve on number 2. The only ways I can think of that getting in there are from the hole I make in the intake port when I port them. So I put some thread sealer on the bolt, and I also changed out the valve guide seal. The only thing left I can think of is how oil would puddle on top of the intake valve like that would be a bad valve guide, which I hope not, because I don't want to pull these heads. But I'll let you know what happens with that. Alright gearheads, that's all that I have for you today. Don't forget, comment below the video so I can go ahead and get you one of these little gifts. Hey, the weekend's coming up. Y'all go ahead and plan ahead of time. Be productive. Y'all have a great weekend.